So we are all set for Celtic back in the Champions League, looking to win their first ever match day 1 fixture. The first British club to win this trophy back in 1967, whilst Feyenoord were similarly the first Dutch side to win the old European Cup as it was known, and they beat Celtic to do it. Jock Steen's Celtic were beaten back in 1970 despite Tommy Gemmell giving Celtic the lead. Feyenoord found a route back and lifted the trophy. Extraordinarily consistent in the Dutch league in terms of their top 3, top 4 finishing, but they won the title last year and they will provide a stern test for Celtic. But how much on the front foot will Brendan Rodgers' side be? They're in their change strip tonight of the lighter green shirts, no hoops, darker green shorts and light green socks. Feyenoord in their red and white halves with the black shorts and socks, and we are underway on Talksport 2. And Celtic, who have the kick-off, find Reo Hatate early on this near touchline, but his ball in field is intercepted, and that's brought away by Igor Paxiao, who works it out to the left-hand side. A chance to work the cross into the box. Well, it was a good run through the middle there by Mintet, but Celtic managed to get the ball clear up to halfway, but it's tidied up by Mats Wiefer, their tall, rangy midfielder, and all the way back to their keeper, Timon Vellenreuter. Sent out to the right-hand side, and good pressure from Celtic up front, forcing Feyenoord to put the ball straight out of play for a throw. Less than a minute gone on Talksport 2. Feyenoord 0, Celtic 0. Scott Minto's with me tonight.
Celtic trying to get the hold of the ball straight away, but then Feyenoord winning it back and just not really creating a chance, but looking as wanting to show their intent. Of course, they're playing at home at the moment. It's important Celtic try and keep the ball as much as possible, quieten the crowd who are really up for this, as you say. It's the second time in 21 years they've been in the Champions League group stages, so it's so important this start that Celtic, they don't have to score, but what they do have to do is try and keep the ball as much as possible, quieten the crowd a little bit and start to impose their style of play onto this game.
Goals going in the National League. Solihull 0, Fylde 1. Solihull the only unbeaten side left in the National League, but Emeka Obi's put Fylde ahead at the Armco. Dorking 1, Wealdstone 0, and Eastleigh 1, Oxford City 0, also in the National League tonight. Celtic taking up possession right-hand side. Matt O'Reilly, good run by Maeda down the right-hand side of the box, and it's turned behind for an early Celtic corner. Good link-up play between Matt O'Reilly and Daisen Maeda, and his cross was blocked behind for a Celtic corner kick, 0-0.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's almost shouts of a penalty there, because you can see the final defender coming in, and I don't actually think he gets any of the ball, but it's one of those because Maeda goes down as well. I think it looks like he's got the ball and the man. I'm not actually sure he did, and it's ended up being a goal kick.
And no penalty. VAR is in operation. A bit lax at the back, Feyenoord trying to pass the ball out of danger. It was very nearly given away by Trauner, their captain. In fact, Celtic do win it back. Greg Taylor, midway point of the Feyenoord half, but he's dispossessed by Paxiao, and the ball's worked out to the left-hand side, looking for the Croatian Ivanusek, but it dribbles away from him and out for a Celtic throw on the far side of the field. Celtic, their second Champions League campaign in a row, their 12th Champions League campaign in total, and they are in the group, remember, against Lazio and Atletico Madrid, who are meeting in Rome tonight. I'll keep you updated with how that particular Champions League game is going, and Lazio are the visitors to Celtic when we get to match day 2 next month. Celtic with a throw down the right-hand side, trying to get Matt O'Reilly into the game. It's cleared away by Feyenoord and worked up towards the halfway line, and Calvin Stengs with an early ball down the left-hand side, looking to release Mintet, who was caught by a Celtic player, and a free kick has gone the way of the Dutch, and it looks like Mintet is actually playing through the middle as the striker in place of Jimenez, Scott Minto.
He is, Dance. He's playing there, and his Paxao is playing a little bit further on the right. Callum Stengs is really pushing in. He's almost more than just a number 10. He's almost like that sort of second striker, especially when Celtic have the ball. Just a clash there between Minter and Scales. I don't think there was anything in it. It was just strong defending. Yes, it was a foul. The foul was given. No, it wasn't a yellow card. A yellow card wasn't given. So I think there's decent refereeing in the start. But it's really, as I say, it's really important. You can see how Feyenoord, they've got the pace. They want to try and press high when they haven't got the ball. They want to try and counter-attack as quickly as possible when they do have the ball. So it's one of those games where Celtic really need to feel they're fully concentrated for the full 90 minutes.
Liam Scales and Lagerbielke at the back. They've got all sorts of injury problems. Celtic, Cameron Carter-Vickers, just one of a number of players, particularly at the back where
that's a blow for them.
Celtic have got problems.
He's such a key player at the back, isn't he, for Celtic? So for him to be out, it is a massive blow. And then there's Nat Phillips, who it'd be interesting to see whether he would have been chosen if he was fit, but you would have thought so.
Pacquiao on halfway for Feyenoord has to work it back to Hetrudia. Now Trauner, the skipper, faced up by Kyogo, plays the ball into Timber, the other defensive midfielder for Feyenoord. That's worked up to halfway, and Stengs, who's immediately challenged by Scales, who wins the ball back well for Celtic. And then a foul on Lewis Palmer gives Celtic a free kick this time, near to the touchline. 0-0, 5 gone.
Really good defender from Stengs there, because he left his position and from Scales. He left his position and went on to Stengs there, who literally was able just to find a little pocket of space and turn, but Scales didn't let him at all. So really good defending, good reading of the plate.
Lewis Palmer on his first start for Celtic tries to sneak in from the left-hand side. It's half cleared by Feyenoord, but Callum McGregor picks up possession just out of the centre circle for Celtic. Here's Scales again, just over halfway, plays the ball along the deck into the feet of Palmer. Good close control from him. McGregor again works it left for Hatate. Hatate trying to get Palmer in behind Hetrudia, but the right back for Feyenoord shows good strength, holds off Palmer, still got the ball at his own dead ball line, and eventually he's forced to put it out for a Celtic throw. That's good pressing from Brendan Rodgers' side. 5 gone, 0-0.
Yeah, good passing first of all. Look at McGregor keeping hold of the ball. The ball was tried to play in behind. Strength in the end told, but you can see that Celtic then tried to press as much as possible, and it's really good to see them in the final third of Feyenoord's and putting them under pressure.
Pacquiao's clearance only finds a Celtic shirt in Callum McGregor out to the left wing, and Lewis Palmer, who's got support from Greg Taylor, nicks it in field to Hatate. McGregor works it out to the inside right channel. Johnson slides in and wins a throw, does he? He does win a throw indeed off Hartman, much to the dismay of the Feyenoord fans on the far side of the field. Celtic's throw, though, comes to nothing. Desperate clearance from Feyenoord, and Scales on halfway calmly lobs the ball back to Joe Hart, who immediately looks to his immediate right for Gustav Lagerbielke. Good confident start from Celtic here on match day 1. 0-0 the score.
It's been a really good start. Only 7 minutes played, of course, but they look confident on the ball. They look as if they're trying to be crisp in the tackle, not giving these Feyenoord players, because they were very pacey and strong as well, ability to turn.
They've won the ball back with Mats Vifa, but then immediately Celtic, as we found out in these early minutes, are quick to win the ball back when they have been dispossessed.
I actually think Celtic are going to be at their most vulnerable when they have the ball and suddenly they give it away. There's a misplaced pass or someone nips in front, and then they're not quite set.
Daisen Maeda looks to release Kyogo down the right-hand side. Just halts his run for a moment. Faced up by Hartman. He works the ball infield to the centre of the half. Hatate tries to play it up to the edge of the box. There's enough Feyenoord shirts back there to retrieve the situation. Maeda comes out to try and block the downfield ball, and it will break for Greg Taylor. And here is Daisen Maeda out to the left-hand side for Lewis Palmer. Faced up by Hetrudia. Clips the ball into the box over the head of Kyogo and Maeda. The two Japanese couldn't get anywhere near that overhit there from Lewis Palmer. It's a Feyenoord goal kick. 0-0 on 8 minutes on Talksport 2.
Yeah, the execution not right, but I'll tell you what, it's been a really positive start. And if you watched this game and didn't know where you were, you didn't listen to the fans, you'd maybe think the Celtic were the home side. As I say, really crisp in their passing, really good in their pressing. And you can see both teams trying to play, but it's Celtic are able to just show that they're the ones who've got that extra half a second to keep the ball. As I say, I think it's almost been one of those where they need to be careful on that counter-attack, that the home side might be playing like an away side where they look most dangerous.
Here's Liam Scales for Celtic, midway point of his own half, being pressurised by Calvin Stengs, but he works the ball back to Joe Hart. Joe Hart was speaking in the pre-match press conference about it's still a dream to be playing in the Champions League, and to hear that music still sends the shivers down the spine when you hear it. Feels like a big kid, does Joe Hart, and he's no spring chicken. He's 36 years of age now, Joe Hart, but he still has that great feeling.
Yeah, he's been there, seen it, done it, hasn't he? But he appreciates it. I think once you get to that age, Dan, you realise you perhaps haven't got many years of these left, and every time you hear that music, that anthem, football anthem, it means so much. And match day one is a very special time, isn't it? The very first game of the Champions League of the season.
And both these sides looking to get their maiden match day one victory. Let's not forget, 9.5 minutes gone on Talksport 2. Feyenoord 0, Celtic 0. Scott Minto.
Yeah, no, that's of course if you haven't gone through the playoffs, and some teams, there's 4 lots of playoffs to get through, isn't there? So,
well, Celtic have suffered in those. Media Bratislava sticks to mind. Long ball through, trying to get Minte away through the middle. Tries to score from a tight angle, and Hart had already gone to ground, and luckily for him there wasn't much venom on the shot. There was an offside flag against Yakuba Minte anyway, but just for a moment, as Scott Minto rightly mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, Celtic can be at their most vulnerable when they've given the ball up close to the halfway line, and suddenly Feyenoord set people forward.
Yeah,
0-0.
That's right. I mean, Stengs had time on the ball there, and you can see that it was a battle between Ivanovic and Johnston, and Johnston actually pulls him down, and Ivanovic was offside, but Minter wasn't, and the ball actually ended up going to Minter, so I'm not quite sure why they was pulled up. And in the end, it was a battle for Liam Scales, because no doubt about it, Minter is not just quick, but he's strong as well, and he really had to use every ounce of his strength there. Really good defending, but in the end, it was offside. Just would have been interesting if the ball had gone in. VR would have obviously got involved, and would have been interesting to see whether they would have gone with that or not.
0-0 here. 10 minutes gone on Talksport 2. Bristol City 2, Plymouth Argyle 1 in the Championship. Adam Randall gets a goal back for the Pilgrims. Derby 1, Lincoln 0 in the Football League Trophy tonight at Pride Park. Chesterfield 2, Halifax 0 in the National League. And Porto lead at Shakhtar in the Champions League. Galeno for the Portuguese. That game's being played in Hamburg tonight. Of course, Shakhtar still unable to play in their native Ukraine. 0-0, Feyenoord against Celtic. Gertrudia preparing to take a throw from Feyenoord's right back position inside his own half. Goes back to his captain Trauner, and it goes further back to the goalkeeper Wellenreuter. Their first choice keeper is out with a wrist injury that's going to keep him out until October. So Wellenreuter, former German under-21, is the perceived number 1 for the time being at Feyenoord. He finds Mats Wiefer, who can turn and run at pace towards the halfway line. Clips the ball out to the left-hand side. Finds Hartmann, but he's closed down by Maeda, so he goes back into his own half. And David Hanko, Trauner again, the captain, finds Gertrudia, who's pushed in from right back to the edge of the centre circle. Good work on the halfway line from Reo Hatate, and he's won a free kick. In fact, it was Matt O'Reilly that was clipped as he tried to release a Celtic player on the counter-attack, and Celtic have a free kick bang on halfway, 0-0.
Yeah, really good play there again in midfield. Celtic are not giving the Feyenoord midfielders or the forward players any time on the ball at all. The one time Feyenoord have looked dangerous was when Stengs had a bit of time to play that ball through. It ended up being offside. But as I say, the midfield and the defence of Celtic doing really well, giving Feyenoord no time at all.
Well, Maeda just sliding in, then a crunching challenge between Timber and Johnston breaks the way of Feyenoord, and they're working out to Pak Xiao on the right wing for Feyenoord. Pak Xiao plays the ball down the right-hand side of the box. Minte tries to improvise across with the outside of his left boot. Doesn't really come off for him, and then Johnston is pushed over by Hartmann, and Celtic get a free kick. Barcelona lead Royal Antwerp at the Camp Nou. Joao Felix for Barcelona, and Shakhtar have equalised almost as soon as they've gone behind against Porto. It's 1-1 there. Kevin Kelsey for the Ukrainian side. Free kick to Celtic. Still waiting for a gilt-edged chance for either side, really, but Celtic enjoying good spells of possession in this opening quarter of an hour on Talksport 2.
Listen, we're coming up to 15 minutes, and I think Brendan will be absolutely delighted with this. Celtic, in terms of possession, have had more than Feyenoord, and they look the one who's more comfortable. As I say, just got to be careful when they do have the ball. If they're passing the ball into midfield or just round the back like that, be careful that they don't just nip in Feyenoord, because they've got some very quick players.
Oh, lovely touch from Rea Hatate. Gets Greg Taylor away. Tried to flick it out to the left wing, looking for Lewis Palmer, but it was tidied up by Gertrudia. And now threaded up to the midway point of the final half, but they've given it away again. Hatate bursting through the midfield, getting up to the edge of the area. Hatate with the shot. It's weak, and it's held on to well enough in the end by Wellenreuter. And Rea Hatate just looks to the heavens. He knows he should have caught that sweeter. 0-0, first chance of the game for Celtic.
Yeah, biggest opportunity so far for either side. And Hatate, you want him running at the defence there. And they were just dropping off Feyenoord. And he got to about, just over 20 yards out, straight in front of goal. And he knows himself, he was looking to the sky thinking, oh no, I didn't strike it well. You come to Feyenoord, a place like this, who are playing well at the moment, got some really good results recently in the league, have got some excellent players with a brilliant manager who I'm sure at some point will be in the Premier League. You're not going to get many opportunities, and some of them might only be half opportunities. You have to do better than that. Very good player, but the execution not good enough.
6 goals and 8 assists in the Scottish Premiership alone for Rea Hatate last season. And his industry and his work rate is very much part of what makes Celtic tick. 0-0 the score, 15 minutes gone. Scales and Lagerbielke exchanging passes at the back for the Scottish champions. Now Alistair Johnston plays the ball down the right-hand side. Maeda tried to keep it in play right on the touchline and flicked the ball through for the onrushing Matt O'Reilly. But it goes out of play. And Feyenoord have a throw. Trauner, their captain, edge of the centre circle, plays the ball over the top, trying to get Minte in behind, but it skipped through to Joe Hart, who was right out to the edge of his area and held on to as well. Good chance for Minte, Mr. Minto.
It was, yes, that's right. And good goalkeeping from Joe Hart. If you're going to play that high line and there wasn't any pressure on the ball, then he has to be ready to come out. There's no doubt about it, the forward players of Feyenoord have got the pace on the Celtic centre-backs for sure. But as long as they position themselves in the right place, I think they've got the strength over them. They just need to make sure they read the game really well. But in the end, it was good goalkeeping from Hart.
Callum McGregor, bags of European experience. It's the one thing that Celtic have got, by and large, over this Feyenoord side. They've got more players out there who know about the rigours of Champions League football. Very few, I think it's 7 of the entire Feyenoord squad have got any European experience whatsoever. Whereas it's more like 18 players in the Celtic squad.
Yeah, and I think that does help, especially on match day 1, where, those players who haven't been used to it before, might get a little bit overawed, and it might take them a bit of time to get in the game. And maybe that's what's happened here. I think Celtic have made the better start of the two teams. I really do. So, what went on last season.
Oh, given away. Hatate hits a shot at the edge of the area, blocked by Trauner. And again, Feyenoord giving the ball away in a dangerous area. Just fell to Rea Hatate, but as he got the shot away, it was blocked right at source by Trauner.
That's an even better opportunity, and Hatate has got to play Kyogo in there. He's got to see that he would have been in.
Now here come Feyenoord on the attack. Minte tried to flick it left at Ivanusek. Only half cleared by Celtic. Timber works it out to Ivanusek, left-hand corner of the box. Faced up by Lagerbielke, cuts in field, lays it back to Timber. The square ball for Gertrudia. Then Timber slipped slightly, almost gave the ball away to Hatate. One back in the end by Feyenoord, getting a bit of encouragement from their fans. Bristol City 3, Plymouth 1, Mark Sykes, and Southampton 0, Ipswich 1. Amari Hutchinson for Ipswich. Southampton go behind again. They were beaten soundly by Leicester City. Live on Talksport 2 on Friday night. You'll have heard that with us here on your home of the EFL. We've got more EFL action for you tomorrow night. I'm going to be at Carrow Road with Sam Parkin, 8 o'clock kickoff. Norwich City against Leicester City. Promises an awful lot. And we've also got Bayern Munich against Manchester United on Talksport at the same time.
Both good games.
Brilliant choice of listening for you tomorrow night. Just get the app downloaded, the old free to download Talksport app, and you can just swipe it to your heart's content between the two commentaries. Bayern Manchester United on Talksport,
I listen to it all the time,
and
Vince.
Norwich Leicester on Talksport 2. And Scott Minto showing me as if I was testing him.
You were
that he's
looking
got
at
the
me.
Talksport app downloaded on his phone.
As you said that, you looked at me and...
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
That's
mean to.
okay.
I wasn't.
You can look at me, it's fine.
It wasn't.
Not quite with
It
that
wasn't
look.
accusatory. Please don't think that. You're missing none of the action. Lewis Palmer's just down getting some treatment for Celtic. 19 minutes gone. Feyenoord 0, Celtic 0 on match day 1 of the Champions League. Just a bit of a nosebleed for Lewis Palmer, I think, more than anything else.
And Brendan will be absolutely delighted with this, coming up to 20 minutes, and yes, Feyenoord are starting to have a little bit more possession, but they've not had a shot neither off or on target. So, I think that's something which Brendan, I think, would be thinking, yeah, okay, we're so far so good, we're doing well, we've had 2 really good chances as well. You just need to be careful, as I say, when they have the ball on the break. It looks like they've got very dangerous players playing that ball in behind. Joe Hart will have to be careful, but I think if he wants to be really greedy, Brendan, he's thinking he should have created better opportunities with those 2 chances.
Well, they've retained most of their squad from last season. Jota's gone, of course, to Al Ittihad, who was the star of Celtic's season last year, but they've not lost that many players, and Lewis Palmer and the like coming in. So there's a bit of continuity from season for season.
It's opportunity, isn't it? It's opportunity for the players. Once one player goes, an opportunity for another one. You talk about Kyogo now is, looks like he's kind of a star man. Now the time for him to step up and show that he can be the main man for Celtic. And as I say, you look at last year and the experience they got in terms of the actual performances. They were decent performances. They just didn't quite have it in the clinical moments and weren't able to keep up for the full 90 minutes. But they would have learned a lot from last season, of that there's no doubt.
Ange Ball didn't work over a 90-minute period in the Champions League. Lewis Palmer's back out there with some tissue stuffed up his right nostril, having had a clout on the nose in the build-up to that chance that saw Hatate presented with the ball 25 yards out, but saw his shot blocked. Coventry equalised at Cardiff in the Championship. That's 1-1. Matt Godden with the equaliser, and Robert Lewandowski's got a second for Barcelona against Royal Antwerp at the Camp Nou in the Champions League. No goals here between Feyenoord and Celtic. 21 minutes played on Talksport 2. No goals in the other tie in this group as well. Group C between Lazio, Group E rather, between Lazio and Atletico Madrid. Here for Feyenoord down the left-hand side is Calvin Stengs. Lays the ball off to Timber. Gertrudia, the right back, being pressurised by Palmer, so he's forced to go back to the halfway line. Gets it back from his captain Trauner. Stengs lays it off to Vifa, tries to loft it out to the final left, but that's well watched by Daisen Maeda, who just let the ball trickle out of play over on the far side for a Celtic throw. I watched Daisen Maeda when I was out in Qatar for the World Cup. An underappreciated player, most definitely. He was part of that terrific Japanese team. I know they still haven't made a World Cup quarter-final, but there was so much to admire in the way the Japanese went about their business, particularly when they beat the Germans in that group stage. On
and off the pitch. How tidy were they off it?
The clean dressing rooms, absolutely.
No, but they were fantastic, weren't they? I think it's only a matter of time, to be honest with you, Dan. There's a lot of countries who have got into the quarterfinals and even semis, and we were perhaps surprised with Morocco. We wouldn't have been surprised with how Japan played in the group stages if they had gone further, but they're developing all the while they're going on, and I wouldn't be surprised if the next one they do get to the quarters.
And these were areas that Ange Postecoglou was happy to dip into in the transfer market, given his experience in Japanese football. So Hatate and Kyogo and Maeda, and of course the South Korean players that are on the bench, Yang and Oh, who we may well see at some point this evening. Midway point of the first half. Feyenoord 0, Celtic 0. Hatate has the ball taken off his toe by Quinton Timber, moving to the right-hand corner of the box. It's now with Stengs. Lays it back to the edge of the box. Vifa tried to pass it into the net from 25 yards out. It was cleared away, but not too convincingly by Celtic. Feyenoord have it back. It's with Gertrudia. Now Ivan Usek, who we've not seen much of, the former Dinamo Zagreb forward. Now picks it up midway point of the Celtic half to the left of centre. Worked out to the far left-hand touchline for a moment by David Hanko. Out to that left-hand side, and that was a chance for Minte to move in field, but there were Celtic players putting the foot in, winning the ball back. Ends up being a throw for Feyenoord. And the atmosphere not as oppressive and as intimidating as it was at the get-go. I think, largely speaking, Scott Minto, Celtic have kept this crowd noticeably quieter than they would have liked to have been.
Absolutely, that's what we talked about at the start, didn't we? That's what Brendan Rodgers would have been aiming for.
Well, here's Stengs, though, looking to change that. Pak Xiao down the right wing for Feyenoord. Can't wrap his foot around the cross as he got to the dead ball line. Goes way behind, and that's a goal kick for Celtic. 24 gone. 0-0 on Talksport 2. Solihull Moors equalise against AFC Fard in the National League. Cade Craig. And Barcelona have a third. Yele Bataille makes it Barcelona 3, Royal Antwerp 0. Bit of fear for the Belgians there, even though they won the Belgian Championship Shield and the Cup, under huge pressure already in Barcelona. Yeah. Ball's in the arms of Joe Hart, 24 gone.
Sorry, Dan, it's coming up to 25 minutes, and honestly, Brendan will be absolutely delighted with this. Look very solid. When they haven't got the ball, it's a 4-5-1. And McGregor sometimes just dropping in to almost make it 5 at times. And yeah, they still haven't had a shot on or off target, Feyenoord.
Now the ball's worked back to the keeper, and he just got there ahead of Kyogo, did Vellenreuter for Feyenoord. It's a dangerous back pass, and Kyogo is no slouch. Bit of head tennis around the halfway line, but it's brought down by Scales. He finds McGregor, now Greg Taylor for Celtic. Ball's ricocheted back to the halfway line, but it's still with the Scottish champions, and work back to Joe Hart. Dorking 3, Wealdstone 0 in the National League. Plenty of football around the country tonight. A lot in the Championship. Bristol City 3-1 up against Plymouth. Cardiff and Coventry a goal apiece. Swansea ahead at QPR. Ipswich ahead at Southampton. And there's that big game at the bottom as well, which is currently 0-0 between Sheffield Wednesday and Middlesbrough. And the ball's back with Joe Hart inside his own 18-yard box. Now he clonks it right-footed downfield, looking for Maeda, keeps it in play on the far touchline, looking for his compatriot Kyogo to help him out, but the ball's won back by Feyenoord and worked back to the goalkeeper Vellenreuter, wearing all blue, and his right-footed ball downfield straight down the throat of Greg Taylor, who returns it with interest downfield, asking Lewis Palmer to give chase, but that'll be out of play for a final throw, 0-0.
And there's not a lot happening, which again would mean that Brendan would be happy. This is Feyenoord side coming into the game, lots of good league wins. You're playing a team like Celtic, they'll be saying that we should be beating these at home. It's almost the game that you would choose in match day 1, but no. Celtic have played really well, looked really solid without the ball, created the best 2 chances with it. And they just need to keep on doing this. You know, if it peters on like this, as it were, for the next 15 minutes, then again, Brendan will be delighted.
Well, we remind you, 19 goals in 5 league games for Feyenoord so far this season. They're unbeaten in the Dutch First Division. Now down the right-hand side, Calvin Stengs. Stengs looking for a chance to cross the ball in left-footed. Worked back by Hetrudia. Out to the right-hand side for Minte. Can Minte get the cross in? Actually goes for goal with a left-footed effort, but Hart knew that was going over the bar all the while, and that's a goal kick to Celtic, 0-0.
Yeah, again, Celtic will be delighted with that. You know, Minte's come in on his left foot from the right-hand side, and you're thinking, OK, just whip the ball in, put in a good cross. He hasn't. He's tried to shoot, and you take that all day long. Joe Hart certainly will. Go on, shoot from there. If you beat me, it'd be some strike.
Scott Minto alongside me, Ian Danter. It is Feyenoord 0, Celtic 0 in the Champions League. 27 minutes gone at De Kuip on match day 1. Port Vale equalise at home to Burton Albion. Ben Garrity with the equaliser for the Valiants. Woking lead Ebbsfleet in the National League. There's a potential penalty check that VAR is taking a look at in this game. Now I wonder whether that is for a potential handball. Well, Greg Taylor hung out his left forearm as Minter hit that shot. I don't think he caught his arm, did it?
Give that.
No, they've not given it. They're allowing play to go on. I mean, that's not a clear and obvious error. If that had been given as a penalty, that would be re-refereeing the game to the most ridiculous extent. 0-0.
Well, first of all, Dan, I think you're right. I'm not even sure it hit his arm. It looked like it was a slight deflection. Maybe they thought it was, but it might have been his leg. But even if it had been his arm, I mean, Okay, his arm did come out a little bit, but it wasn't completely unnatural the way he was just turning his body. I think that would have been, as you say, very, very harsh indeed for Celtic. Not a clear and obvious error, even if it did hit the arm.
28 minutes gone. Feyenoord 0, Celtic 0. Celtic in possession on halfway with Gustav Lagerbielke. Just takes the ball up. He's got Scales to his left and he gives the ball to Liam Scales. Neat ball through halfway, and now Hatate has possession down the near side, the Celtic left. Lewis Palmer now picks it up just ahead of him. Level with the edge of the area, works it back in field to Hatate. Early ball into the box. O'Reilly turns it across the 6-yard box and it's plunged upon by the keeper, Vellenreuter, just ahead of Kyogo. Good build-up play from Celtic, 0-0.
Oh, brilliant play it was, and I was just sort of thinking I'd like to see more of Palmer. Haven't really seen enough of him in the left-hand side. Just plays a simple ball in. Matt O'Reilly makes a great run into the box, and all he can do is kind of take that first touch and almost flick it round him, hoping that someone can read the situation. And Kyogo, for me, has got to just be sniffing that one out and get in front of his defender. Neither he nor Maeda did as well, and that was, I would put that down as a little bit more than a half chance.
So we're approaching the half hour on match day 1 here on Talksport 2 in the Champions League. Celtic goalless in Rotterdam against Feyenoord. They've given the ball away, and can Feyenoord break? There's a free kick given for a foul on Stengs, and that's going to be a yellow card. And Lagerbielke gets cautioned by the referee for denying Stengs the chance to turn and launch a counter-attack. Yellow card for the Celtic centre-half. Free kick for Feyenoord, 0-0.
Yeah, the ball actually bounces off Lagerbielke and then it falls to Stengs, and he's kind of thinking, right, they're on the counter-attack and I've got to make a lunge. And Stengs was very clever. He put his foot in between him and the ball, so therefore he was brought down. He stopped an attack, but he's got a yellow card, so he's got over an hour's worth of football now to make sure he doesn't get another one.
Stengs going to take this free kick, midway point of the Celtic half, left-footed, drifts it into the area, headed out well by Scales, lofted back towards the edge of the box by Minte, but it's a poor ball, and Maeda can try and launch a Celtic counter-attack. Great pace from the Japanese with his shaved head down the right-hand side, but he runs into the captain of Feyenoord, Gernot Trauner, and he's won the ball back. Atletico Madrid lead in Lazio in the other game in this group. Pablo Barrios with the goal for Atletico. Lazio 0, Atletico 1. Lazio go to Celtic Park next on match day 2. Out to the left-hand side. Feyenoord coming forward. A great challenge by Alistair Johnson. Committed himself just at the right moment to get his foot in and win the ball back. Hatate trying to sweep the ball up to Lewis Palmer on halfway. It's toe poked out of play by Gertrudia. A throw to Celtic.
That was unlucky, wasn't it? Really good. First of all, defending from Johnson, then a good pass inside to Hatate, who just lets the ball run across his body. And he didn't quite hit the pass out wide to Palmer well enough, and that would have been another good counter-attack from Celtic.
Feyenoord win the ball back inside the Celtic half. Mintet finds Stengs. His attempted through ball through the centre of the pitch just finds a whole host of Celtic players in the way. Palmer goes down, no foul by Gertrudia, brings the ball forward to the right-hand corner of the box, plays it into the area, plays a 1-2, gets it back, Gertrudia down by the dead ball line, plays it into the near post and Scales heads it behind, but an offside flag has gone up anyway against the Feyenoord player, and so Celtic get the free kick and a chance to clear downfield. 0-0, it stays on Talksport 2.
Well, Lewis Palmer's looking at the referee saying, how was that not a foul? And I think it was actually from Gertrudia. And to be fair, he attacks well. Palmer comes back in. It's a really good line from Celtic. The defence is playing really well. You can see there's a lot of good communication there. You need to be absolutely spot on with that. It just takes one person to drop off and suddenly Feyenoord can turn and be at Joe Hart in an instant.
Goals elsewhere. Solihull are in front now against AFC Far, the only unbeaten side, remember, in the National League. Josh Kelly makes it Solihull 2, AFC Far 1, and Barnet 1, Aldershot 0 elsewhere. Shakhtar 1, Porto 3. Mediterranean with a third for Porto in the Champions League. Cardiff 1, Coventry 1 as a half-time score in the Championship. Ball in the centre circle, headed forward for Feyenoord by Trown, all given away by McGregor. Here's Minte coming forward, tries to drive, and Hart has to tip it over. Minte winding up the supporters, asking for a bit more support. I think that's the first genuine effort on target from Feyenoord, and Hart was right underneath it and forced to tip it over for a corner kick, 0-0.
Yeah, two things there. One, Celtic losing the ball and therefore Feyenoord been able to counter-attack very quickly. And secondly, I think Joe Hart would be absolutely delighted that Minte shot from there, 25 yards out, a simple tip over, when actually Ivanovic was in if Minte had have looked up, and it would have been a one-on-one.
Stengs will take the corner short from the right-hand side, gets it back from Pak Xiao, right-hand corner of the box. They're trying to work a training ground routine here, but Ivanovic not on the same page, and it ends up dribbling behind for a Celtic goal kick. So we've got 2 live games for you tomorrow night across the Talksport network. Our coverage starts here on Talksport 2 at 6 p.m. with Adrian Durham. Talksport joins in at 7. The Talksport commentary at 8 is Bayern Munich, Manchester United. Here on Talksport 2, we're in the Championship. Norwich City against Leicester City. Then Thursday night, Lask against Liverpool in the Europa League. That's a 5:45 kickoff here on Talksport 2. Ray Houghton going to be alongside Jim Proudfoot for commentary on that one. And then the Women's Nations League kicks in, and we're with the Battle of England versus Scotland on Friday night at the Stadium of Light, live on Talksport, 7:45 kickoff. Faye Carruthers, Joe Shannon and Lucy Ward will be your team, bringing you that game from the northeast. And then game day kicks in again, and 2 live commentaries for you from the Premier League. I'll be at Kenilworth Road with Perry Groves for Luton against Wolves at 3 o'clock, and then at 8 o'clock on Talksport, Burnley Manchester United. Now a yellow card for Callum McGregor here for Celtic for a late challenge just inside the Feyenoord half of the field. Free kick given to the Dutch champions, and what McGregor was doing was just stopping Timber getting forward, just obstructing him as he was trying to get off the deck.
Both of them had fallen down. McGregor's got his legs kind of wrapped around Timber. It's one of those where he's not letting him go, and Timber's almost just trying to kick out and get away. And
it's like a wrestling hold.
It was.
Quickly taken free kick. Lovely knockdown by Minte. Finds Stengs at the edge of the area, back to goal. Tried to feed it across to the left-hand side of the box, but again, Celtic have got bodies back, but only get it half clear. Hanko, though, loses out. Hatate, he's got 2 players ahead of him. One is Maeda, who's sprinting into the final half. Kyogo to his left. Maeda still going. Maeda goes for goal. Good save. Turned round the post by Vellenreuter for a Celtic corner, but Daisen Maeda just fancied a go for goal from a good 25 yards out and tested the final keeper to the full. 0-0.
Absolutely, and you could see he thought there's a chance of a goal because he was actually pushed over by Hartman and could have gone down, and it definitely would have been a yellow card for the left back, but no, Maeda stayed on his feet. Is a really good strike off balance and a really good save as well.
Short corner for Celtic, left hand side. Lewis Palmer cuts infield, tries to drive, it was Goldman but blocked on its way. Drops for Matt O'Reilly, left hand side of the box. He tries to improvise a cross, but the ball was bouncing awkwardly and he just lofted it way over the crossbar, and it will be a goal kick for Feyenoord. But real encouragement for Celtic. 37 minutes gone. Feyenoord 0, Celtic 0, and a lightning quick break saw Daisen Maeda try a left-footed effort. He wasn't really in control, he wasn't really balanced, but he still got a terrific strike away. Well saved by Vellenreuter to keep it scoreless. Lovely turn in midfield by Pak Xiao, and the ball worked up to halfway for Feyenoord. They're trying to play the ball through the middle for Stengs, trying to head the ball down, but he only finds Lewis Palmer inside his own half for Celtic, and the Honduran works it out to Greg Taylor. Lovely first time ball in field for Reo Hatate. Hatate just trying to hold on to the ball as he works his way further into the Feyenoord half. Celtic keep possession. Good stuff. Down the left-hand side with Greg Taylor, near to the touchline. Plays it into the area. Lewis Palmer's got space, trying to check onto his right. Vital touch from Trauner, the Feyenoord captain. And then Alistair Johnson is penalised for a push on Ivanovic. Just for a moment, it seemed to be opening up for Lewis Palmer for Celtic. 0-0.
Oh, I'll tell you what. First of all, defensively, Greg Taylor got away with it, actually. He tried to play offside when Liam Scales dropped off. But actually, there was a couple of times Taylor got the ball, a first-time pass inside for a Tartan. I thought he was going to actually run at the defence, but he didn't, because there was a few players that came back. And then he played a really good ball into the box for Palmer. And I'm just thinking, they're showing him inside, so just go down the outside on your left foot and either hammer it across for the far post or just hammer it across to try and see if anyone can get on the end of it. In the end, he kind of read the situation, the defender, and kicked it away. But I tell you what, I've been so impressed in the first almost 40 minutes here by Celtic. I really have. The way they've played with and without the ball, they've looked as if, you talked about experience in the Champions League, and I think in this particular game so far, and even more so with it being match day 1, I think the experience have shown here so far what they need to do. They almost don't want half-time to come, because they're in control of this situation. They just need to be careful of the counter-attacks, because we know they've got some very pacey players, Feyenoord.
That's the voice of Scott Minto, former Chelsea, West Ham and Benfica left back, a man with Champions League experience. Alongside me, Ian Danter here in the commentary box. In the Championship, big goal at Hillsborough. Sheffield Wednesday lead Middlesbrough in the battle of the bottom two by 1-0. Anthony Musaba. Remember, both of those sides waiting for their first league win of the season. Just one draw apiece so far. Celtic coming forward, but Maeda, he's quick, but he's not that quick to catch up with the ball that was clipped down the right-hand side. And it ends up being a Feyenoord goal kick. 0-0 with 5 minutes plus added time to the break. On Talksport 2, earlier today, Newcastle got a very creditable 0-0 draw in the San Siro against AC Milan. Still goalless at the Etihad between Manchester City and Red Star Belgrade. Adrian Durham taking you around the grounds over on Talksport, with goals as they go in from Champions League and Championship. And Paris Saint-Germain, Borussia Dortmund also currently goalless in the Champions League, as it is in this match that we're watching in De Kuip in Rotterdam. Greg Taylor heads clear for Celtic from the edge of his own area. Matt O'Reilly, lovely first touch to take it away from a couple of defenders. Now Lewis Palmer picks it up on halfway for Celtic. Looks up and clips the ball to his right-hand side. It might just skip away from Alistair Johnson here. Oh, he's kept it in play, has he? No, he hasn't. Oh, he has, but it's had been taken off his toe, and suddenly it's Hartman coming down the left-hand side for Feyenoord, and he tries an ambitious shot to beat Hart at his near post. And Hart watched it go the wrong side of the post for Feyenoord, and a goal kick for Celtic. 0-0 the score.
Well, that was a strange one, wasn't it? Johnston felt the ball went out. It looked like it went out. Maeda kind of touched it, but then just left it. Referee's assistant said no, play on, and suddenly Feyenoord are on the counter-attack. That's the only time they're looking dangerous, when they're able to somehow get on the counter-attack, and that's because Celtic had a bit of miscommunication, but I suppose it's the old adage, play to the whistle, isn't it?
It's a corner because it took a touch off Alistair Johnson on its way through that shot from Hartman. And so the corner for Feyenoord on the far side. Stengs standing over it, right-footed, in-swinger to come for Feyenoord. Onto the 6-yard line, and Vifa heads over. Couldn't get over the top of the ball. Good defensive pressure from Matt O'Reilly at the same time. So a goal kick for Celtic, 0-0. Brendan Rodgers furiously making notes on that little notepad. I'd love to read one of those notepads managers have at half-time. See if you can make anything intelligible on that pad at all. Here come Feyenoord once more with Ivanusek, but his ball intended back to the edge of the area, ran straight through to Lewis Palmer, and Celtic can tidy things up.
Do you know what, Dan? So that notepad is so small and he's writing so quickly, I bet even he can't read it at half-time.
Well, yeah. Unless he's an expert at shorthand. You just don't know what these managers have studied in their youth. You know?
I did shorthand.
Did you? It's a dying art, you know, shorthand.
Course. Yeah. I only got up to 40 words a minute, which means you speak like this.
Yeah, it's not world-class, is it? But you were world-class in other things.
Oh, I love you.
Now, ball coming forward, and Feyenoord will try an ambitious drive. And it was from the edge of the area, Quintin Timber just let fly. And Pacquiao, it was, forgive me, who let fly from a good 30 yards out, and Hart knew it was going high, wide, and not particularly handsome.
But again, this is what Brendan will be absolutely delighted with. No, Joe Hart will be as well. These are shots from 25, 30 yards that is saying, okay, if you're going to beat the keeper with the quality of Hart, then it's got to be some strike. You know, the Celtic defence doing really well, protected as fantastically well as well by the midfield. McGregor and O'Reilly particularly. O'Reilly's getting back, and real box to box, getting forward as well, and then the quality of Atate. And you feel that even if they want to sit in and almost play a counter-attacking game, they can do. It's been a really impressive first half from Celtic.
0-0. We're approaching the last minute of normal time in this first half on Talksport 2. Alistair Johnson's brought down. Free kick to Celtic in their right-back position. Alan Brazil back on breakfast tomorrow morning on Talksport from 6 a.m. He's been hosting his charity golf day, raising money for Calm, the campaign against living miserably today. He was on with Hawksby and Baker this afternoon, who are live at the course, and he'll have plenty of tales to tell, I'm sure, from 6 a.m. Apparently he was sat at the turn of the course just after the 9th green in a little gazebo.
In a halfway house.
At a halfway house with as much lubrication as he could get his hands on.
Is he going straight from the golf course to work?
But maybe I should set my alarm. Stranger things have happened, Scott.
Don't put it on silent.
No. Talksport breakfast back from 6. Set your alarm and see whether he's there.
Absolutely.
At 6 a.m. Alan Brazil tomorrow morning when you wake up. Or if you fancy something a bit different, a musical start to your day, Chris Evans is on Virgin Radio from 6:30 a.m. If you get the Talksport app downloaded, you can actually now at the top of the screen swipe through not just Talksport and Talksport 2, but all the other stations in our family, such as Talk TV, Virgin Radio, Times Radio, and beyond. It's a few high scores in the Football League Trophy tonight as we move into 3 minutes of minimum stoppage time. Wigan Athletic are 6-1 up against Leicester City's academy at the DW, and Exeter 0, Reading 7 is the latest score between two League One sides. Reading have just had a further 3 points deducted from their league tally.
I was going to say they need a bit of positivity at the moment.
7-0 won't do them any harm down at St James Park. Now Feyenoord have won a free kick, good 30-35 yards out here, just to the right of centre for a foul by Matt O'Reilly. See whether they fancy a strike at goal here, Feyenoord, because the first half is threatening to end without Joe Hart having been severely tested. He's had to tip one Yakuba Minte shot over the bar, but this is a dangerous position.
Very dangerous. And it'd be heartbreaking, really, if Feyenoord were to stick this in the top corner and go 1-0 up. They don't deserve to beat, but, first minute of injury time, can't imagine there'd be too many more chances. It's a fair way out, isn't it? It's, 30-35 yards? But
yep. Well, Calvin Stengs is the player that's backing away from the ball, looking the most likely. Referee just having a look at the feet placement in the wall and making sure that everybody is the correct distance away. Hart waits just in front of his goal line. Pacquiao's there too. Stengs goes for goal, and it's in! It went straight through Joe Hart. Disaster for Celtic. Right on half-time, Calvin Stengs hit it left-footed. It looked like Joe Hart had it covered at his left-hand post, but he went through him into the net. And after a first half in which they've kept the Dutch champions at bay, Celtic fall behind right on the half-time whistle. Calvin Stengs with the free kick. Feyenoord 1, Celtic 0.
Well, first of all, Celtic don't deserve this. The first half they've had, they've been the better side. And, I kind of calculated about 30 yards out. And Joe Hart, he's got to get across. Yes, he's gone round the wall and he's done it with a bit of whip, but it's not as if he's done it with a complete, absolutely whacking it. He's done it with the side of his foot. It looks like he's almost gathered pace as it's gone on, and he's bounced in front of Joe Hart as well, and he's not able to get it out. He's got a touch on it, but he's complaining about the wall, but he has to be saving that. Again, how many times have we said in the first half where Feyenoord have been shooting from 25, 30 yards out, and it'd be some strike to beat Joe Hart from that. Don't get me wrong, it was a good strike, but it wasn't a strike worthy of getting past him from that distance. Heartbreaking for Celtic.
He only joined in July from Nice, did Calvin Stengs, but he's already amongst the goals and assists for his new club. And it's Feyenoord 1, Celtic 0. And after all the hard work that Brendan Rodgers' men have put in that first half and the frustration that they've caused for their hosts, it's going to be a far, far different half-time team talk for Brendan Rodgers to have to give. We played the 3 minutes of minimum added time at the end of this first half. The ball's back with Joe Hart inside his area. Lagerbielke looks up as he receives the ball just outside the box, trots to the midway point of the half, looks up to halfway for Matt O'Reilly, down for Scales, out to the left-hand side, and Greg Taylor, held up by Lewis Palmer on halfway, tries to work the ball in field for Hatate, and the referee blows the whistle for half-time, and there's a huge roar around De Kuip, but that wasn't the sort of atmosphere that Feyenoord and Celtic played in for the vast majority of that first half. Celtic were frustrating the Dutch champions, winning the ball back, and they had half chances of their own, notably a counter-attack that saw Dazen Maeda try a left-footed snapshot that was brilliantly saved by Wellenreuter. But as we entered stoppage time, Feyenoord won a free kick 30 yards out, and Calvin Stengs stepped up, bent it over the wall. Joe Hart couldn't keep it out as he went across to his left-hand side. And a tragic end to the first half. Brendan Rodgers has got a far, far different team talk to give now. Scott Minto, 1-0 down Celtic.
Yeah, and they will go in there and they'll say, look, you know, you don't deserve to be one down. You have been the better side. You've looked more dangerous. You've created more opportunities. And it's, you know, say Feyenoord has been really just long shots, nothing more than that. And that's why it's so disappointing, not just in terms of the fact that they scored, but the timing of it, just half-time, because I actually don't think Brendan will do things that differently. I think he'll say, I'll just want more of the same. He might obviously have to make substitutions as the second half goes on. But I think in terms of performance-wise, you know, defensively, attacking-wise, with the ball, without the ball, they look really solid, really sharp, really tough in the tackle, look as if they're pacey down the wings. I do feel that Lewis Palmer hasn't got in the game as much as I would have liked. Maeda has down the right-hand side. Kyogo hasn't. But in terms of the midfield, I think Celtic have bossed it, really, so they don't deserve to be 1-0 down at half-time.
So does he change much? Keep it as it is? I mean, because that free kick aside, there wasn't an awful lot wrong with that first half. No,
and that's what I mean. I don't actually think he'd be saying too much that he would have done it at 0-0 because, you know... Okay, as I say, when it gets to like 10-15 minutes left and it stays at 1-0, then he'll have to change things, whether it be personnel or maybe a different bit of style, which I don't think is really Brendan. But at this moment in time, at the start of the second half, I'd be really surprised if he makes any kind of substitutions. Look, they're going to Feyenoord where the fans are absolutely on this. It's only the second time in over 20 years they're in the group stages. Feyenoord are really up for it, but in terms of how the game's gone, Celtic have been the better side. And in terms of, as I say, defensively, they've not created too many chances, Feyenoord, but going forward, Celtic have looked dangerous. I think that final ball for them hasn't been good enough, and maybe he could tweak things there. You know, as I say, I mean, you're going to keep Kyogo on. I think Maeda's looked dangerous. Luis Palmer's the one for me who looks most dangerous in terms of coming off in the first 10-15 minutes if nothing really happens. But apart from that, I think it's been a pretty perfect away performance.
But Celtic are behind at the break, courtesy of Calvin Steng's late free kick for Feyenoord. There's been a late goal in the first half at the Etihad, and it's Manchester City 0, Red Star 1. Osman Bukhari has given Cervena Zvezda, as they're also known, the lead at the Etihad, and that is a half-time score as well. And early in the second half, Preston 0, Birmingham City 1 in the Championship. Jay Stansfield has put Birmingham in front against Preston, who are the unbeaten side of the Championship. 5 straight wins for Ryan Lowe's men. But the half-time score here, and you'll hear in our half-time break from the likes of Thomas Tuchel, Bayern Munich manager, and Mikel Arteta of Arsenal, what can Celtic do in the second half? Because they're behind at the break. The half-time score in Rotterdam, Feyenoord 1, Celtic 0.
Talksport 2, official broadcast partner of the Premier League and the English Football League. Rugby World Cup 2023 on Talksport with Tenor Men. From the lineouts in Lyon.
There's a chance here!
To the scrums in St Etienne. From the drop goals in Saint-Denis.
Steps up right-footed.
To the final touch in Toulouse.
What a way to finish!
Listen to Talksport Breakfast all this week from 6 and get every tackle, turnover and try as the world's rugby elite do battle for the legendary Webb Ellis Cup.
Bulldogs in his way to the line!
Rugby World Cup daily updates on Talksport with Tenor Men. Keep control.
The humble postcode An unassuming set of numbers and letters, but sometimes they can do something extraordinary. In our October draws, your postcode could bring you and your neighbours a share of £11.2 million. It could mean making your house into the home you've always dreamed of. Sign up before midnight this Thursday and see what extraordinary things your postcode could do. People's Postcode Lottery. Good things come knocking. People's Postcode Lottery manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 18 plus conditions apply. Play responsibly. Not available in Northern Ireland.
Now, brown the mince, pequeno peppers, cumin, oregano. Ooh, wonderful. Next, a splash of...
Seriously? You don't need to splash out and all that. To give your chili con carne full-on flavour, just add a Coleman's recipe mix to whatever you're cooking. They're a spice rack in a pack. For great nosh, for less dosh, cook with Coleman's recipe mixes. Full-on flavour.
Hey, sweetie, do you know what Mummy wants for her birthday?
Yes, a new Volvo. This September you can save up to £11,500 on their mild hybrid, plug-in hybrid and electric cars.
That's very specific. Did Mummy tell you to say this?
No.
Okay, and your birthday's coming up too, sweetheart. What do you really want?
A new Volvo. This September you can save up to £11,500 across the range. Oh, and there's up to 4 years free servicing too, Daddy.
Right, I see what's going on here.
Anna!
Order online or at your local Volvo retailer by the end of September for these and other attractive offers.
Participating retailers. Savings vary by model. Figure based on XC90 plug-in hybrid. Servicing offer on selected new cars. Excludes the X30 and the X90. Terms apply.
Talksport 2, official broadcast partner of the EFL.
Sunday afternoon,
Live Championship football
on Talksport 2.
Sunderland versus Cardiff.
coverage from 2:30. Kick-off 3 p.m.
Brilliant goal.
Sunday afternoon on Talksport 2.
Give us a goal. The Social with Adi Oladipo and Rory Jennings. Tomorrow afternoon from 3 on Talksport 2. Outspoken opinions and decisive debate following all the action.
We talk about football in a bipartisan and educated way. Well, I do at least.
I try.
News, views, fun and football fixtures.
It's not just football though, bit of boxing, bit of horse racing, even a bit of rugby.
And it's a try!
And some phenomenal guests.
If you can't get in this squad after showing the form he showed, I don't think it looks too good for him.
This is the place to be.
It's Addy and Rory. It's The Social on Talksport 2.
What a goal!
The Social.
Tomorrow afternoon from 3.
It just works, doesn't it? On Talksport 2.
On DAB+, online, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker.
Champions League live on Talksport 2.
So we are all set. Celtic back in the Champions League, looking to win their first ever match day 1 fixture. Now threaded up to the midway point of the final half, but they've given it away again. Hatate bursting through the midfield, getting up to the edge of the area. Hatate with the shot, it's weak, and it's held on to well enough in the end.
Straight in front of goal. And he knows himself, he was looking to the sky thinking, oh no, I didn't strike it well.
Given away. Hatate hits a shot at the edge of the area, blocked by Trauner. And again, Feyenoord giving the ball away in a dangerous area.
That's an even better opportunity. You have to do better than that. Very good player, but the execution not good enough.
He's got 2 players ahead of him. One is Maeda, who's sprinting into the final half. Kyogo to his left. Maeda still going. Maeda goes for goal. Good save. Turn round the post by Vellenreuter.
They almost don't want half-time to come because they're in control of this situation.
Given away by McGregor. Here's Minte coming forward, tries to drive, and Hart has to tip it over.
They just need to be careful of the counter-attacks because we know they've got some very pacey players.
Pacquiao's there too. Stings goes for goal, and it's in! It went straight through Joe Hart. Disaster for Celtic. Right on half-time. Calvin Stings hit it left-footed. It looked like Joe Hart had it covered. That's the half-time score here on Talksport 2 in the Champions League. Feyenoord 1, Celtic 0. Ian Danter and Scott Minto with you on this Tuesday evening. Elsewhere in the Champions League tonight, in the other game in Celtic's group, Atletico Madrid lead Lazio by 1-0 in Italy at half-time. In Group F, earlier today it finished Milan 0, Newcastle 0. You heard that live on TalkSport. Terrific point for Eddie Howe's Magpies. And PSG 0, Dortmund 0 is a half-time score in the other game in that group. In Group G, earlier today, Young Boys 1, Leipzig 3 was a result. Manchester City 0, Cervena Saavedza 1 at half-time at the Etihad. And in Group H, Barcelona 3, Royal Antwerp 0, Shakhtar Donetsk 1, FC Porto 3. In the Championship tonight, most of these games are now well into the second half. They're 7:45 kickoffs. Bristol City 3, Plymouth 1. Cardiff 1, Coventry 1. Preston have just equalised against Birmingham with an own goal. Preston 1, Birmingham 1 at Deepdale. QPR 0, Swansea 1. Swansea looking for their first win of the season. Southampton 0, Ipswich 1. And half-time at Hillsborough in the 8 o'clock kick-off between the two teams at the bottom of the Championship. Sheffield Wednesday 1, Middlesbrough 0. 3 games in League One tonight, all into the second half. Barnsley 0, Portsmouth 3 at Oakwell. Peterborough 0, Cheltenham 0. Cheltenham down to 10 men. James Olyenka sent off very early on in the piece for Cheltenham, who still haven't scored in League One this season, never mind one. And Port Vale 1, Burton 1 at Vale Park. Quickly in the National League, all these games are in the second half. Altrincham 2, Hartlepool 1. Barnet 2, Aldershot 0. Bournemouth 1, Rochdale 1. Chesterfield the leaders 2, Halifax 1. Dagenham Redbridge 0, Bromley 0. Dorking 3, Wealdstone 0. Eastleigh 1, Oxford City 0. Gateshead 2, Kidderminster 0. Oldham 1, York 0. Solihull 2, AFC Fylde 1. Southend 0, Maidenhead 0. And Woking 1, Ebbsfleet 0. So you're up to date here on Talksport 2 with all of the half-time and second half scores. Barnsley have just got a goal back, incidentally, against Portsmouth. Barry Cotter making it Barnsley 1, Portsmouth 3. Tomorrow, the Talksport network brings you even more Champions League action. Bayern Munich hosting Manchester United. You can hear live on Talksport. Our coverage starts here on Talksport 2 at 6 p.m. with Talksport joining in at 7. Ahead of the game, the Bayern boss Thomas Tuchel has been left really impressed with Harry Kane's leadership qualities.
Harry is doing this since years and almost a decade. He had Tottenham on his shoulders for year after year, season after season. He was never hiding under pressure. He was never hiding from pressure. And he's doing it for so many years now for the English national team. And he's doing it in his style, in his way, calm, humble, friendly, very impressive. And this is how he leads. So I think there's of course not one leadership style and not one leader that you have to be or you have to imitate to lead a group of football players. You do this in your very own style, and he is doing it like he does it, and he's not shy to do it here. But it's not that he becomes a totally different person than in the last years. He's the same guy, and that's why we wanted him so much to be the same guy. Be humble, be nice, be friendly, but be reliable, show personality when it's needed, be calm under pressure. That's what he does.
So that game is live on Talksport tomorrow night, 8 o'clock kickoff. Bayern Munich against Manchester United. A couple of goals going in right at this moment in League One. Burton Albion are back in front at Port Vale. Remember, Burton Albion are really struggling at the start of the season. No win in 11, haven't scored in their last 2, but Steve Seddon, the left back, has put them ahead at Vale Park. Port Vale 1, Burton 2. And Peterborough finally have the lead against 10-man Cheltenham. Harrison Burrows scores at London Road. Peterborough 1, Cheltenham 0. Gateshead now 3-0 up on Kidderminster Harriers in the National League. Arsenal also in Champions League action tomorrow evening against PSV as they make their return to the competition after 7 seasons away. And Talksport's Bradley Hayden has been chatting with Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal boss, about the team's chances of progressing from their group.
Well, that's what we want to do, but this is football, and tomorrow we're going to play against a really good team that they haven't lost a game, and they have won the majority of the game, and they are used to winning like every other team that is in the Champions League, and it will be a really tough test, I'm sure about that.
This is quite a relatively young Arsenal squad, and for most of them it will be their first experience of playing in the Champions League. But to have people like Jorginho and Havertz who've won it before, and the likes of Partey and Zinchenko and Jesus, how important is their experience going to be in these opening games?
It's great to have that mixture and the excitement that created to play for the first time. I sense it. There are players that they played for many years. Some of them they won it, as you said. And it's just mixing that experience and as well decided to make your debuts in the right way to perform at the highest level.
Mikel Arteta chatting with Talksport's Bradley Hayden ahead of Arsenal against PSV tomorrow night in the Champions League. Ian Danter and Scott Minto with you on Talksport 2. The players emerging at De Kuip ahead of the second half. Feyenoord with that late free kick to lead Celtic at the turnaround. And remember, Feyenoord have never won on match day 1 of the Champions League. Same as Celtic, but they participated in far less group stages than the Scottish champions have. They lost to Roma in the Europa Conference League final, the first Europa Conference League final, that was 2022. And then lost in the Europa League quarter-final final to the same opponents last year. And of course, Roma beat Rodgers Leicester in the semi-finals of that Conference League back in 2022. There's all sorts of connections everywhere when you think of the Wim Jansen connection, former Celtic manager who played for Feyenoord in the European Cup final win against Celtic back in 1970. Colchester 0, Tottenham's Academy 5 in the Football League Trophy. Jude Soonsup-Bell's got a couple for Tottenham's youngsters. I think he was at Chelsea as well, Soonsup-Bell. Scott Minto, former Chelsea fullback, alongside me. Quick word about Chelsea, I'll ask you, seeing as you're a former Chelsea left back. Well,
kick off now, Dan.
Can you see any signs? It's a 0-0 draw at Bournemouth on Sunday. Can you see any signs? I saw them lose to Forest. Wasn't a good day, but can you see any indication of what Pochettino's trying to do, what he's trying to get across?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not as doom and gloom as everyone else seems to be at the moment. They had so many chances to score. They need to put the ball in the back of the net, and then it could have been 3-0 up after 12 minutes. But yeah, and that's all we can talk about right now, Dan.
Well,
it took an hour.
Thankfully for you, the game's just got back underway at De Kuip. Feyenoord in their red and white halves shirts with the black shorts and socks. Celtic in their change strip of the lighter green shirts and socks with the dark green shorts. And Celtic have got the same 11 as they had at the start, so too have Feyenoord. No changes made at the break. I'll run you through the lineups in a minute. But Scott Minto wanted to make a point at the start of the second half.
I was just going to finish off by saying, but Chelsea do need to get results, and it would be a real shame if Celtic weren't able to come away with a positive result here. I do believe that they were the better side in the first half. They looked the most comfortable defensively. They created some decent chances where if the final ball had been better, I think they could easily have scored. And just that one free kick, 30 yards out, that Joe Hart really would be disappointed. He wasn't happy with the wall, and I'm sure the wall, are not totally blameless, but he shouldn't be beaten from there. And I just think it changes the complexion of the game where, again, I just hope it's not one of these where we're talking again for this season like we did last season. Well, do you know what? Celtic, they played well, didn't they? But they didn't come away with the results that they needed. They need to get something out of here. Feyenoord need to win this game. They're at home against Celtic. Match day 1, they need to come away with all 3 points. Celtic need to find a way to not lose it.
Cardiff have just retaken the lead in the Championship against Coventry. Karlan Grant with the second for the Bluebirds. Lineup for Feyenoord: Vellenreuter in goal, Gertrudia, Trauner, Hanko and Hartmann in a back four, Wiefer and Timber holding in midfield, and then Pak Xiao, Stengs the goal scorer, and Ivanusek behind Minte, the young striker. For Celtic, Hart in goal, Johnston, Lagerbielke, Scales and Taylor at the back, O'Reilly, McGregor, Hatate in midfield, Maeda, Kyogo, Palmer in attack. And of course, it only took Manchester City 2 minutes to equalise in the second half at the Etihad. Julian Alvarez making it 1-1.
They've made them angry, haven't they?
Now, cross from the right-hand side from Feyenoord, from the right-hand corner of the box from young Minte. Almost found a Feyenoord player in front of goal. Initially, the cross came in for the left from Quilinci Hartmann that caused all sorts of problems at the back for Celtic, but they've survived.
Yeah, and it's a really good ball in. Celtic just need to be careful at the start of this second half. They're not conceding a goal. 2-0 down, I don't see them coming back from it. It's very much Feyenoord on the attack at the start of this second half. I'm sure Arne Slot hasn't been happy with the performance of the home side and has given them just a little bit of a kick up the backside. It's certainly been a lot better so far.
Could be forward down the right-hand side Feyenoord, but they've given possession up. Celtic try and bring it clear, but Lewis Palmer's conceded a throw. Peterborough have a second against Cheltenham in League One. Johnson, Clark, Harris, making it Peterborough 2, Cheltenham 0. Here's Timber for Feyenoord. Arne Slot turned 45 on Sunday, appointed from RZ. December 2020, won his title in only his second year at this club, which is why he was linked with the likes of Tottenham Hotspur early in the summer. Here's Minte on loan from Newcastle, tries to get a shot away. Good block by Liam Scales. He needed to make that, Scales, because Minter was looking dangerous. Hartman with another lovely ball in from the left-hand side, but it's through the 6-yard box and away from danger for Celtic's point of view. 3 minutes gone in the second half, and Feyenoord very much on the front foot at the restart. 1-0 they lead.
Absolutely. What a wonderful ball that was from Hartman. In fact, it was perhaps just a little bit too close to the goalkeeper. He's whipped a ball in twice now in the last couple of minutes, and we didn't see him at all going forward in the first half. We know he loves to try and bomb on as much as possible. I think it goes to show how much under pressure Feyenoord were in the first half. Celtic just need to try and wrestle control of the tempo of this game at the moment, because since the start of the second half it's been all Feyenoord.
Minto-esque, those balls in for the left-hand side from Quilinci Hartman. Playing around with the ball at the back, Feyenoord, and they almost gave up possession, but now they're bringing it downfield with Luka Ivanusek. Up towards the left-hand corner of the box, he's got Johnson backpedaling. Hartman on the overlap, another ball into the area, cleared away by Scales at the near post. He had to make that. There were players behind him, and again, Feyenoord making tracks down their left-hand side and causing Celtic problems. They lead 1-0.
Yeah, Alistair Johnson's got to get some help because it's 2-on-1 at the moment, and Hartman's bombing on.
Who's crossed in again, held up by Pak Xiao at the edge of the area, but Lagerbielke got a foot in this time. Johnson slides in but loses out. Ivanusek trying to take it round the Celtic fullback, but Johnson stuck to his task well. Got it half clear to Maeda, and Maeda wins a throw for Celtic on this near side, the right. 1-0 Feyenoord lead with 5 gone in the second half on Talksport 2.
Yeah, Johnson did well there, but that's 3 times now in the first 5 minutes that Hartman has got in down the left and whipped in some great balls. With Johnson as a right back, you've got to get an extra help and say this cannot happen. 2v1, get Maeda down and help you out. Get O'Reilly across to try and make sure that it's not overloaded. At the moment, it's been all Feyenoord.
But here is Lewis Palmer for Celtic on the far left-hand side. Kyogo, the only player waiting for a cross at the moment. Palmer's going to go for goal. Beaten out by Wellenreuter. It was a good strike by Lewis Palmer from almost the left-hand corner of the area. But Wellenreuter got both gloves to it and pushed it away from danger. Celtic trying to win the ball back. And they do, with Alistair Johnston. Has to work it back to Lagerbielke. Paris Saint-Germain lead Borussia Dortmund through Kylian Mbappe's early second half strike in the Champions League. Dagenham Redbridge 0, Bromley 1 in the National League. 1-0 to Feyenoord here on Talksport 2 at De Kuip. Kyogo trying to put the Feyenoord backline under pressure, but they've worked the ball well, the Dutch, up to Timber on halfway, trying to release Minte through the middle. Again, Liam Scales with a vital touch to get the ball away.
He's been brilliant tonight, hasn't he? He's read the situation so much. He's actually kept pace with some of these really pacey forwards from Feyenoord as well. Reading of the game, superb.
Now, they're just trying to protect the ball here. Mats Wiefer and stopping a Celtic attack from Callum McGregor. They've done that. I think it's safe to say Burton Albion are going to get their first win of the season. They're 3-1 up now at Port Vale. Quadro Bar with a third for the Brewers. Barcelona 4-0 up on Royal Antwerp. Now Gavi with the fourth for Barca. 52 minutes played at De Kuip in Rotterdam, Holland. Feyenoord 1, Celtic 0. The goal coming, if you're just tuning in stoppage time at the end of the first half. A 30-yard Calvin Stengs free kick that Joe Hart couldn't keep out. Was he a step too far across to his right-hand side, Joe Hart? I wonder when that free kick was taken.
I think he couldn't see properly, and therefore he was leaning towards the right, and the ball went towards his left, and it seemed to gather pace. It was a really good strike, but it wasn't a wonder strike.
Skipped off the turf, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And Kyogo pressurising Wellenreuter, and he's given the ball away to Lewis Palmer. Celtic have it inside the area. Palmer goes down. No penalty, says the referee. Very quick to throw his arms out in that internationally recognised symbol for get away. We play on.
No, it wasn't a penalty. No chance. I've just been disappointed with Palmer tonight. I think it's been a really good performance from Celtic and a lot of very good individual performances. He's the one who's disappointed me the most. Every time he's tried to take on his fullback or the centre-back in that situation, he hasn't got past him once.
Here is Hertrudia, the Feyenoord right-back, who's pushed in field, midway point of the Celtic half. 1-0 to Feyenoord. Preston are in front against Birmingham. Milutin Osmaic makes it Preston 2, Birmingham 1 at Deepdale. Preston looking for 6 straight league wins and to further extend their lead at the top over Leicester, who go to Norwich live on Talksport 2 tomorrow night.
What a start it's been for Ryan Lowe.
It's really just the extension of what he was doing towards the end of last season, really, with Preston. You could see they had this in them. Feyenoord 1-0 up, and Stengs, the goal scorer, plays the ball out to the right-hand side. Minte with a cross into the area, looking for Pak Xiao. It's headed away by the Celtic rearguard, but only back to the halfway line and back in Feyenoord's possession. Hanko out to the right-hand side. Minte's there again, brings it down beautifully, up against Taylor. Got him backpedaling across the face to goal with a ball that doesn't find Pak Xiao. Kept in play by Ivan Usek, but again, Liam Scales is there for Celtic to get it out of harm's way. But the ball will come back at Celtic because Feyenoord have won it back just inside the Celtic half. Good work, though, from Reo Hatate to dispossess his man. And the ball's back with Joe Hart. Nearly 10 minutes gone in the second half. Lagerbielke receives the ball and gives it back to Joe Hart. Now Scales will come out of the penalty area with the ball at his feet for Celtic. Good ball down the left-hand side for Lewis Palmer. Looking to take on Hertrudia. The ball's gone out of play for a Celtic throw. Over on that far side, FC Halifax now have equalised at Chesterfield, the National League leaders. 2-2 the score. And it's 1-0 here to Feyenoord. We've played 10 minutes of the second half, and changes being readied on the subs bench by Brendan Rodgers. More on that in a moment, but meantime, Matt O'Reilly trying to win the ball for Celtic, and Hatate's been pulled back by Timber. Surely that's a yellow card for the Feyenoord number 8, and indeed it is. Meantime, Middlesbrough have equalised at Sheffield Wednesday in that game at the bottom of the Championship. Neither side have won yet. 1-1 the score. Darragh Lenihan with the equaliser for Borough. And Hatate brought down by Timber, who gets a yellow card for his trouble. So a free kick to Celtic. Midway point of the half, we're just seeing a replay of where Kyogo closed down Timon Vellenreuter, the keeper, and almost saw Vellenreuter's clearance ricochet off Kyogo and into the back of the net for 1-1.
He's ready to pounce, isn't he, Kyogo? Not seen him enough in the game in open play, but you can see even when Feyenoord have the ball.
Now Lewis Palmer going for the byline, left-hand side. The cross into the near post is easy for Trauner to clear, but it is a Celtic throw, 10 yards from the corner flag on their left-hand side. 1-0 Feyenoord lead.
Yeah, even when Feyenoord have the ball, he's ready to pounce. You can see just need to get him a little bit more involved. Not seen enough of him at the moment.
Yeah, Kyogo Furuhashi, who has got 4 league goals already this season, a couple of assists. Got a record of over a goal every other game for Celtic since he joined from Kobe a couple of years ago. Here he is, finding Matt O'Reilly, trying to give it back to Kyogo, but the pass was poor, picked off by Feyenoord, and then McGregor handles the ball. He's got to be careful. He was yellow carded in the first half, but the referee just gives a free kick, and that will allow the changes to be made. And Yang Hyun-jun of South Korea is coming on for Lewis Palmer. And you mentioned, really, Scott Minto, that Palmer had frustrated you with his performance in the first near hour that we've had, and also Reo Hatate, just back from injury, has lasted just shy of an hour, and he's been placed by Odin Thiago Holm, the Norwegian, who's just arrived from Vålerenga, so he's on to replace Hatate. So Celtic make a couple of changes to try and get themselves back level here. 57 gone, 1-0 Feyenoord. Scott Minto.
Yeah, the first change, I can understand that. Yang on for Palmer. Talked about how we hadn't seen enough of Palmer, and certainly once he got the ball, he wasn't able to get past his defender at all. The Hatate one, I think it must be a fitness thing, because he has looked dangerous whenever he's been on the ball.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what Brendan Rodgers has done. He's just keeping Hatate fresh for further challenges to come. Here comes Calvin Stengs down the left for Feyenoord. Good ball into the box, volleyed away by Liam Scales. He's there again to clear the ball away for Celtic. Yang couldn't keep the ball in play with his first involvement down this near side. So it's a throw to Feyenoord, 1-0 to the Dutch.
It's interesting though, isn't it, the conundrum that a manager has. You're 1-0 down, away from home, you want your creativity, and Hatate is one of the best players, or most creative players in the Celtic side, and yet, you know, the experience of Brendan says he's not ready for a 90 minutes at this kind of level, so he still brings him off despite, you know, really not wanting to lose the game. Obviously at this moment in time they're coming away with 0 points and they don't deserve that.
Paris Saint-Germain double their lead against Borussia Dortmund. Achraf Hakimi, wasn't he once a Borussia Dortmund player? I think he was, you know. And he's doubled PSG's lead in the Champions League. Coming up to the hour mark on Talksport 2. If you're just tuning in, Celtic a goal down in Rotterdam against Feyenoord. A free kick right on half-time from Calvin Stengs. Brendan Rodgers just made a double change to try and get his side at least level and come away from the Netherlands with a point, with Lazio to come to Celtic Park on match day 2. Liam Scales clips the ball over to the Celtic left, and Greg Taylor was caught late as he released the ball, and that's going to be a free kick awarded by the referee for the challenge by Minter, who holds his hands up in apologetic fashion as if to say, didn't do nothing, governor. But it is a free kick.
It was one of those, wasn't it? They definitely came in late. You could hear the shout from Taylor. I think he's fine.
Long ball down the left, trying to get Maeda away. He's now switched to his more natural position on the left-hand side of the front three, with Yang coming on the right. Kyogo staying through the middle for Celtic. 1-0 to Feyenoord, an hour gone. Celtic have got half an hour or so to try and wrestle some control back in this game. Manchester City lead against Red Star. Julian Alvarez with his second in 15 minutes to turn it around for Pep's men.
There you go.
It's almost like they
made him angry.
Yeah, exactly. They poked the hornet's nest, as it were.
I remember one time when I was at West Ham, we were doing really well after 20 minutes. We were 1-0 up at Old Trafford, and we ended up losing 7-1.
But what a great 20 minutes that was.
It was a brilliant 20 minutes. Paulo Wanchope, we all got angry with him. Don't score so early.
He scored a wonder goal there for Derby County, Paulo Wanchope, I seem to remember. What a player he was. He didn't know what he was going to do next, let alone
we didn't know. We had no idea. I knew what David Beckham, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes and Teddy Sheringham would do there.
Never heard of him. Out to the left-hand side. Maeda coming forward for Celtic. Good darting run from Maeda. Gets to the byline. Tries to whip the cross in, but doesn't get his foot wrapped round it enough, and it just goes behind for a goal kick to Feyenoord. 1-0 to the Dutch.
It's better though. I think the substitutions are certainly Yang coming on as well, and that means Maeda's gone out to the left. We've seen more of Maeda on the left than we did in the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the second half on the right. So I think it's a really good substitution from Brendan.
Celtic trying to pressurise Feyenoord, who have the ball inside their own penalty area with the captain Trauner. It's good work from Yang. He's worked very, very hard, but they've come away with it nonetheless. Feyenoord up to halfway. McGregor just slowing Vifa down for the moment. Eastleigh 2, Oxford City 0 in the National League. I think Oxford United have had some good news today about land for a brand new stadium away from the Kazam if they get the planning permission. And Oxford City, of course, up in the National League. It's a good place to be, the town of Oxford. Or the Oxford City, I should say, not the town, it's the city. That's why they're called Oxford City. Shut up, Nanter. Chesterfield are down to 10 men. The leaders of the National League have had Tom Naylor sent off, but they still lead in their game. Here comes Calvin Stengs, the goal scorer for Feyenoord, trying to thread the ball through to Pak Xiao, who made a run in the area, throws himself to the floor, and the referee's given the penalty. Pak Xiao now immediately brings himself to his feet. It looked like he went to ground theatrically. There's a yellow card, and a second yellow it will be for Lagerbielke. He's off for Celtic. It's double jeopardy. He's brought down Pak Xiao. It's been seen as a yellow card offence, and Celtic are down to 10 men, 1-0 down, and they're about to face a penalty kick.
Wow, what a big moment in this game. And I'll tell you what, at first glance, I wasn't sure this was a penalty at all. We're now looking at the replay. He's got his arm up. There's no doubt about it, he catches him, but for me that type of thing happens all the time. In slow motion it can look worse. If you look at, you've got to look at those at real speed. Both players quite often have their arms up. The problem for Lager Bielka is that he's got his arm sort of high and catches him in the neck.
Well, VAR's checking it in their base in Nyon.
I don't think the replays, the slow motion replays, will say that it's a clear and obvious error. I don't think it's a penalty, but I also don't think it's a clear and obvious error. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here, what VAR says.
No, the penalty check is over, and Lager Bielka has been dismissed by the referee. And Lager Bielka is having to backpedal his way back to the touchline on his way off the field. He can't believe it, Gustav Lager Bielka.
It's almost a height thing as well, Dance, because he's so tall. He's got his arm up and he catches Pak Chau in his neck, which makes it look a lot worse. If it come across his chest, probably wouldn't have been given as a penalty.
So the Swede is off, and Igor Pak Chau, who was fouled, has picked himself up, and he has the penalty against Joe Hart to double Feyenoord's lead. Right-footed save by Joe Hart, and cleared behind by Matt O'Reilly for a corner. It's still 1-0 to Feyenoord. Hart with the save, but now Celtic have got to play the last 25 minutes with one man fewer.
Yeah, absolutely. Still you can't really sort of turn around and say, well, there you go, just desserts, because Celtic are a man down. They've got to somehow find a way in the 25 minutes plus injury time to get a goal, and that's been the problem. They've been very good, but they haven't really created lots of clear-cut chances. And the way that Pak Chau kind of ran at the ball, you know, he's right-footed and he's starting from the right. He's having to move to the left, almost horizontally, and he's got his body shape in all sorts of positions, and it's a really good save from Joe Hart.
Stengs with the resulting corner, headed out at the near post by Callum McGregor. Stengs gets it again on this near side, the left. Faced up once again by Alistair Johnson. Worked back by Feyenoord, so they've got the man advantage now, the Dutch champions. Another change coming up for Brendan Rodgers. Oh, now it suddenly broke through for Hanko, who got forward inside the area, but he's blasted the ball over the bar. David Hanko, suddenly a diagonal ball from the right-hand side, suddenly had Hanko through. The bounce of the ball seemed to favour him, but he whipped a left-footed shot over the crossbar, and Celtic have a goal kick. 1-0 Feyenoord.
Wonderful ball from Minter there, taking that first time with the cross, inverted cross there, and he whips it in. It's left at the back post, and you're right, it bounces up, and it probably bounces up a little bit too high. I think if it's Pak Chau or Minter himself, then maybe he would have just let it come just that extra half a second for it to drop a little bit. He'd been able to keep over the ball, but in the end he strikes it. It's a good strike, but he's not able to keep it down.
Well, Minte has been withdrawn to allow Ali Jahanbakhsh to come on. Pak Chau coming off as well, and Andre Linge has come on. So a couple of changes for Feyenoord. Jahanbakhsh, who Brighton listeners will remember playing at the Amex. So a couple of changes for Feyenoord. Andre Linge for Pak Chau, and Jahanbakhsh for Minte. Feyenoord 1, Celtic 0. Celtic down to 10 men, with Lager Bielka sent off for a second yellow card offence in putting an arm across Pak Chau. What led to the penalty was Joe Hart's save, and a red card. Celtic are down to 9. A straight red card issued. Looking to see who's been awarded the red card. Is it Greg Taylor, the left back? Well, suddenly from nowhere, this evening's going from bad to worse for Brendan Rodgers and Celtic. It's actually Holm, the substitute, who went in very strongly on Vifa. And Odin Holm, who's only been on the pitch a matter of 5 minutes, goes in very strongly on FIFA. I'm sure VAR will check this to see whether it is indeed worthy of a straight red card. But that's what's been issued by the referee. Holm is walking round on the pitch, again shaking his head in disbelief that that's what's been awarded. But will VAR rescue him? Or will it be a second red card in a matter of moments for Brendan Rodgers and Celtic? 1-0 Feyenoord lead.
I'll be surprised if it overturns it again. You're talking about clear and obvious error, and for Holm, he's kind of dived in there and his foot's gone up and is caught that just below the knee. It's a really high challenge, and it's not meant, it's not intentional, but it's reckless. And when you go down like that, you have to make sure your feet are lower than where it ended up being, and you certainly don't show your studs. He was late, it was mistimed. He's caught him, as I say, just below the knee, and on another day, I don't want to call it a leg breaking tackle, but those type of tackles can break a leg if someone's planted his foot in there. So, oh my goodness, it goes from bad to worse. At least the scoreline, Dance, is still only 1-0. There's still only one great bit of moment away, or a mistake from Feyenoord from somehow getting something out of this game. But now they're down to 9 men. It's well, to say it's an uphill battle is a big understatement.
Red card confirmed for Odin Thiago Holm. A straight red for the Norwegian under-21. And here comes the free kick, chipped in, and Getrenia makes it 2-0 to Feyenoord. 20 minutes to go. And as soon as they have a two-man advantage, they get a 2-goal lead. Getrenia played in by a short free kick, worked into the area. Celtic weren't alive to it, and Getrenia lifted it over Joe Hart. And Feyenoord doubled their lead against 9-man Celtic. It's turning into an awful night on Brendan Rodgers' return to the Champions League. Feyenoord 2, Celtic 0.
Well, I don't care if it's 11 men against 9. This should not be happening. In fact, looks like he could well be offside. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to VAR. Well, it will go to VAR, and VAR says that is offside. It was actually a fantastic finish from the right back. It really was, dinking it over Joe Hart. And, you know, I was just about to say he should not, Celtic, even with 9 men, 8 men, 7 men, shouldn't be beaten from that position with a free kick just played in behind. But actually, it looks like it was offside. I think it probably will be disallowed. And then you can turn around and say, well, it was a really good high line from Celtic.
Yeah, offside is the call. So it's a free kick, and it remains just 1-0 to Celtic.
So that's really good, Dance, from Celtic's point of view, because it could have taken one player just to drop off half a yard, and Getrenia would have been onside. It was a wonderful finish, it really was. 2-0, down to 9 men, no chance. 1-0, 9 men, still got half a chance.
So Yang trying to play the ball into the area for Maeda. Still plenty of attacking intent out there for Celtic, but they are now 2 men light and a goal down with less than 20 minutes to go. Cardiff 3, Coventry 1. Keon Atete gets the third for Cardiff. Barnsley 2, Portsmouth 3. Callum Stiles gets another goal back for Barnsley. And Bristol City 4, Plymouth Argyle 1 in the Championship. Harry Cornick gets a 4th for the Robins. Another change being made by Feyenoord. And Quinton Timber, the defensive midfielder, comes off. Ramez Zarouki, who was at FC Twente before coming in June to Feyenoord, is on to replace him, the Algerian. So he's on for the last 18 minutes or so. Here is Jahanbach getting involved. Chipped into the box by Vifa, and Alistair Johnson heads over his own crossbar, knowing that there were players lurking behind him, hoping that there was some sort of error. Linger was the player lingering just behind him. Corner kick to Feyenoord. They lead by 1-0 on Talksport 2.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got to give credit to Feyenoord. They have stepped it up in the second half. We talked about how they didn't deserve to go in 1-0 up. 0-0 may have been a fair result. Celtic, I think, were the better side, but they didn't create lots of chances. Certainly Feyenoord didn't deserve to go 1-0 up, but they really have stepped it up this second period.
Here is Zarouki's first involvement down the left-hand side of the area. Clipped into the box. It's looking for Trowner, the captain, but he pushed into Liam Scales, and Celtic have a free kick. 3-1 to Manchester City against Red Star. Rodri getting in on the act, the man that scored the winner in the Champions League final. Tomoki Iwata has come on for Celtic for Kyogo for the last 17 minutes or so. So we'll see what he's got up his sleeve for these last 17 minutes. But it's a really tough ask for Celtic. Maeda can't keep the ball in play on the far side. And Brendan Rodgers stood inside his technical area. Watches on as Celtic have won a free kick. 16 minutes to go. Out on the left-hand side, O'Reilly standing over it. Trying to whip it in left-footed from that far touchline. Headed away, though, by Feyenoord. But only as far as Alistair Johnson just ahead of the centre circle. Plays it out to the left-hand side of the area, looking for O'Reilly, who slipped. Thought he was going to be able to win the ball off Lingard, but he just lost his footing, Matt O'Reilly. And the Dane gave up possession. Hoofed downfield by Gertrudia, who thought he'd given Feyenoord a 2-0 lead a couple of moments ago from that quickly taken free kick, but offside ruled against the Feyenoord number 4. Zaruki now for the Dutch champions. Slips it down the left-hand side of the box to Johan Baks. Pulls it back to the edge of the area. McGregor back there for Celtic to defend the cross in. And Maeda trying to use his physicality on halfway. But Feyenoord win it back. 15 minutes to go on Talksport 2. Still Calvin Steng's free kick right on half-time. Separates the sides. It's Feyenoord 1, Celtic 0. Scott Minto.
Yeah, I mean, at least they've had a bit of territory getting forward, but now again it's Feyenoord.
Down the right-hand side of the area, played across. Johan Baks picks it up and fires it in. It's 2-0 now to Feyenoord, no doubt about that. And it's going bad to worse for Brendan Rodgers and Celtic. 2 men sent off, and now 2 goals down. The cross from the right was cleared from in front of goal by Alistair Johnson, but only as far as Ali Johan Baks and the former Brighton man controlled the ball inside the box and rifled it home to put Feyenoord 2 up with just over 10 to go. Feyenoord 2, Celtic 0.
Yeah, I don't see how Celtic are going to come back from this now. And actually, just in the few minutes previous to that, at least they were able to get into Feyenoord's half. Then the very next time Feyenoord get forward, they just play the ball to the byline. It's a cutback. Johnson gets a sort of a flick, but whereas just a couple of minutes earlier headed it over the bar for a corner, he was just kind of headed it back out. And you have to say, Johan Baks, that was a great first touch and an even better second. Just absolutely hammers it in the back of the net. Yeah, I just don't see how Brendan can conjure up some kind of magic now after what was a first half, really up until 45 minutes, wasn't it? The first goal came in about the 46th minute. Celtic looking very comfortable. Since then, though, that goal, maybe that's just lifted Feyenoord and just deflated Celtic a little bit. But second half, there's no doubt about it, Feyenoord have been excellent. Down to 9 men now, 2-0 down. Not really creating any clear-cut chances. Well, they do need a miracle.
Well, Ali Johan Baks came to Feyenoord after his spell at Brighton, which was up and down, really, in his time on the Sussex Downs. Only scored 4 goals in 60-odd appearances for the Seagulls. But he's scored the second here for Feyenoord. And Celtic have a huge mountain to climb in a country where there aren't many mountains about. 13 minutes to go. Feyenoord 2. See, I remember my geography lessons at school, if nothing else.
Do you know what? I did a London to Amsterdam, actually, bike ride. It was very flat in the Netherlands. It was very
That was
hilly.
the easy bit, right?
Yes.
Right at the end when it needed to be. Scott Minto alongside me, Ian Danter. I'm not sure Brendan Rodgers will have much of a sense of humour after this. I mean, they've got Lazio to come to Celtic Park on match day 2 of the Champions League. But the Dutch champions moving forward again. Remember, they've got 2 men advantage. Celtic down to 9 men with Lagerbioka and Holm both red carded. Here's your handbacks again to the byline, pulls it back. The ball's already out as he wrapped his right foot round it, and it will be a Celtic goal kick. And you get the sense, Scott Minto, that with 12 minutes to go, 2-0 down and 2 men light, it's damage limitation for Celtic here.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's going to be another goal. It looks like it's going to come from Feyenoord. It looks like they want to score that third goal, very much on the front foot. You know, smelling that kind of fear now that Celtic have got. They're trying their best, they're working hard, but how do you do 11v9 away from home? You're 2-0 down. No, this is all about Feyenoord and whether they can get that third goal or not.
So 11 minutes to go. Yang showed a good turn of pace in the centre of the field and won himself a free kick, crowded out by one too many challenges from Feyenoord players. Tomoka Iwate's come on, incidentally, a defender who went out on loan to Yokohama from Celtic and has come back and has now joined Celtic full-time after a loan spell. But on the right-hand side, it's Yang infield. Chance for Matt O'Reilly. Might drop for Callum McGregor. Takes a drive from 30 yards out. Blocked on its way to goal by Trauner. And Maeda just couldn't pick up the seconds as the ball bounced around the edge of the area.
Yeah, he couldn't. He was out-muscled there, wasn't he, by Gotruda, and you could see, couldn't get round him.
So here come Feyenoord on the counter-attack. Floated out to your handbacks, who scored the second. Right-hand corner of the area. Gotruda on the overlap. The ball clipped in. Almost found its way through to its intended target. And then a right-footed shot from 25 yards out. He's not that far wide from David Hanko, the centre-half, who's had a couple of sighters of goal tonight. 10 to go, Feyenoord 2-0 up. Celtic 2 men down.
He could have had 2, couldn't he? I mean, that, to be fair, is not even really a half chance. A shot from 25, 30 yards out. But Feyenoord, without a doubt, just enjoying themselves now, knowing that if they carry on the press, Celtic can't keep the ball. And I do feel that the home side do want that third goal.
Celtic trying to attack down the left-hand side with Daisen Maeda, but the captain of Feyenoord, Trauner, gets himself between Maeda and the ball and guides it back to his keeper. Vifo coming forward for Feyenoord. He's got plenty of space to run into against this depleted Celtic side. Picked up left-hand corner of the box. Chance for a third goal, maybe. The drive is blocked. Brought away by Greg Taylor. And Maeda working hard back in his own half. Wins to throw off your handbacks, does he? Yeah, it's been given Celtic's way. And it remains 2-0 to Feyenoord. And further changes for Celtic. Oh Hyung-gyu, who joined in January from the Suwon Blue Wings, another South Korean. He's coming on for Maeda, who has worked incredibly hard for Celtic tonight and had that snapshot in the first half that brought a very smart save out of the goalkeeper Vellenreuter. Paolo Bernardo on loan from Benfica, your old club, Scott. He's also on, an attacking midfielder, and he's replaced Matt O'Reilly for a last throw of the dice from Brendan Rodgers, who go to Livingston on Saturday lunchtime in the Scottish Premiership. Celtic, in fact, they've got 2 Saturday lunchtime kickoffs to come. They've also got to go to Motherwell a week on Saturday in the early game in the Scottish Premiership.
Well, not easy, that, coming off the back of an away game midweek. Obviously, they've got the extra day with it being a Tuesday. But they'll certainly be tired running around 9 men for a period of time and giving everything. They certainly did in the first half, and they more than matched Feyenoord in that first half. You just get the feeling the sort of half chances they had needed to score the first goal. Once that first goal went in, Feyenoord just stepped it up.
Down the right-hand side, it's with Retrudia. Your handback's making a willing run, pulls it back from the byline. It's cleared away by Celtic. Some late goals going in. QPR equalise against Swansea in added time. 1-1. Swansea still destined not to pick up a victory. Peterborough 3, Cheltenham 0. Peter Kioso late on. That's now a full-time score. Port Vale 2, Burton 3. Oliver Arblaster for Port Vale. So Burton's first win isn't exactly certain at this point. reaching full time in those 7:45 kickoffs. Great save from Joe Hart to deny your handbacks with a snapshot from the edge of the area. Cardiff 3, Coventry 2. Matt Godden gets a late one for Coventry, but it may not be enough. And a cross from the right for Feyenoord, straight into the chest of Joe Hart, who can trot to the edge of his penalty area. 2-0 Feyenoord lead. We've got 6.5 minutes of normal time to play. And Celtic, remember, are down to 9 men. Red cards for Lager Bielka and for Holm in this second half have really ruined any momentum that Celtic might have picked up. Here's out to the right-hand side, and Yang, who will hold play up, just nick it in field for Paolo Bernardo. McGregor back to halfway. And now Yang on the right-hand side will give it back again to the halfway line, and Iwata. Scales. Across the halfway line, Scales will get it back under pressure. Will work it back infield. Ipswich have beaten Southampton at St Mary's by 1-0. Bristol City have beaten Plymouth by 4-1. That's an impressive result for Nigel Pearson and the Robins at Ashton Gate. Solihull have kept their unbeaten record in the National League, beating AFC Fylde 2-1. Peterborough 3-0 winners over Cheltenham. Swansea down to 10 men late on. They've just got themselves pegged back to 1-1 at QPR, and Ollie Cooper's been sent off for a second yellow card. And there's another final player down injured, Ivan Usek this time, who's clutching his right calf, having been caught, and he's going to need some treatment. So
yeah, I think it's his ankle. Just as he got caught, he just twisted on his ankle, and it did look a very painful one. And it's one of those where, you know, from a Feyenoord point of view, take him off. Game's won. 5 minutes plus injury time, 2 men up, 2-0 up. There's no point in him trying to carry on, just get him in the dressing room. But it's a shame for Celtic. As I say, first half I thought they were very, very good up until that goal right on half-time in injury time. I thought they were slightly the better side, created slightly the better chances. It's one of those where you have to be clinical in the final third, and if you get into a position where you can either have a shot yourself or you know, you can lay it off, which I think what should have happened in the first half. It didn't happen in the end. I just feel that I think it was Kyogo should have played him Maeda. It didn't. They lost that opportunity, and once Feyenoord scored the goal, then they just really stepped up. But in the second half, they've been really good. They've been really good.
They're bringing the stretcher on here, actually, for Luka Ivanusek. This is not a good sign. He's got his hands over his face, the Croatian international, as he lies on the deck, flat on his back. Incidentally, Preston have made it 6 straight wins, still unbeaten in the league. They beat Birmingham by 2-1 at Deepdale. Very, very impressive start to the season. So they go further clear of Leicester in second place. Leicester go to Norwich tomorrow night. It's live on Talksport 2. I'll be at Carrow Road alongside Sam Parkin. Full commentary of that game on Talksport 2, whilst we also bring you Bayern Munich against Manchester United over on Talksport at 8 o'clock. All the coverage starts at 6 p.m. here on Talksport 2 with Adrian Durham, your host, and Talksport joins in at 7. Cardiff have beaten Coventry by 3-2 in the Championship, but for Luka Ivanusek, it's not looking good. He's been very gently lifted onto the stretcher, and he's going to be carried off the field and going to have to be replaced for these last few minutes. Burton Albion finally get a victory after 11 without a win. They've won in League One tonight by 3-2 at Port Vale. Dino Mamria will be delighted with that they finally got themselves a 3-point haul. So the full-time score's starting to come in elsewhere in the Champions League. Manchester City were 1-0 down, but are 3-1 up against Red Star at the Etihad. Barcelona 5-0 up against Antwerp last time I checked. Porto 3-1 up at Shakhtar. Atletico Madrid in Celtic's group lead by 1-0 at Lazio. And the applause you can hear is for Ivanusek as the stretcher bearers carry him off the field. And Feyenoord will have to make a enforced change with the Croatian forward having gone off, and let Leo Sauer has come on to replace him for these last few minutes. Just 17 years of age, the Slovakian. An under-20 international for his country.
It's great experience for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Coming on in this situation, you know, he can enjoy himself, get some touches to the ball.
Portsmouth still unbeaten. A 3-2 win at Barnsley confirmed tonight for John Mousinho's men. Very impressive start. They're the only team in League One still unbeaten, Portsmouth. And Swansea have dropped points again. QPR 1, Swansea 1. They led for so long in that game, Swansea, but Michael Duff still wanting a win as the new manager of the Swans. Lyndon Dykes with a late equaliser, getting QPR a point, who are now 9 without a home win. So both sides will be unhappy with that result, I think it's fair to say, at Loftus Road. Back underway, Johan Baks for Feyenoord. Keeps the ball in play brilliantly at the dead ball line. Tried to pull it back from the byline to find a teammate, but Celtic get it clear in the last minute of normal time, but there'd be a fair old chunk of minimum stoppage time because of the delay with the long injury for Ivan Usek when he was stretchered off just now. We're about to find out how much more the referee's going to add on at the end of this 90 minutes. Don't forget, you can react to all the Champions League and Championship action with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy on the Sports Bar. That gets underway in about 10 minutes over on Talksport, and the usual number applies: 03717 223344. Celtic fans, let Jamie and Jason know how you felt your team played tonight, because up until the Stengs free kick just shy of half-time, I think Celtic fans would have been very, very content with the way their team had gone about their business. But that Stengs free kick and then 2 red cards in the space of next to no time have put pay to any positivity, Scott Minto.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you know, it's very complimentary how Celtic were in the first half. Both with and without the ball looked really solid. Looked as if they weren't giving Feyenoord any sort of time on the ball or any opportunity to counter-attack. We talked about the pace of their forwards. They created more chances in that first half. You know, and I'd be disappointed from a Celtic point of view if I thought that goal kind of like, you know, dropped their body language and meant that, you know, Feyenoord could then kick on. I just feel that Feyenoord stepped it up in the second half. And it goes to show how in the Champions League, you know, you can't just play for 45 minutes. You've got to play for the full 90. And Celtic, to be fair, in this second half, have not really created anything. But plus the lack of discipline with the shots, the fouls, sorry, not quite been good enough.
Oh, lovely ball into the box. It's number 3. Ball over to the right-hand side on Andre Linger. Lingering at the far post, denied by an offside flag, though. It stays to nil. He wags his finger at the assistant on the far side. He says, no, I was onside. The ball's whipped in from the left-hand side by Hartmann. Now, I'm not sure. Certainly, Vifa, who is at the near post, was offside, or rather Sauer, but I'm not sure whether Linger was offside as well on that far side. He's claiming not, but there's semi-automated offsides in the Champions League. Remember, the computer will sort this out, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, hopefully from a Celtic point of view, the computer will say no. But I think it's Johnston, the right back, that would be keeping him onside. It looks like from the referee's assistant on the other side of the pitch that, you know, he's 2 yards the other side of Taylor. And yet, if you look along the line, it's a really close one between Linger and Johnston as well. Johnston's nothing he can do about it. Everyone's got to play off him in terms of holding that line. And you can see it is offside.
So it stays 2-0 to Feyenoord. We're into 7 minutes, remember, of added time. A lot of that added on for the injury to Ivan Usek just before we got to the end of the 90. Celtic, hugely disappointing night, really. Not in terms of the performance, but in terms of moments. Moments in this game that have cost them dearly.
I think the first goal was a big one, though, Dance. And you know, you're still in the game at 1-0 down, but I think when you're playing away from home in match day 1, it's a very difficult group. You're playing well in that first half. You don't concede that first goal, and I think Joe Hart will be disappointed the fact that it went in from that distance. Yes, it was a really well struck free kick, but it wasn't like real top corner or hammered in, powered in. It was kind of whipped in with the side of his foot.
Now long ball through, looking for Sauer to get away, this youngster from Slovakia, but the ball skipped through and Joe Hart got to the edge of his penalty area, and then Sauer pushes Alistair Johnson, and Celtic have a free kick. 2-0 Feyenoord.
Yeah, and I just think Joe Hart was kind of looking round a player to his right instead of to his left, and it made the goal even bigger. And then it's sort of one of those where it gathered pace, it bounced off the ground, he got a hand on it but wasn't able to keep it out, and then going in 1-0 down, you know, that's really disheartening. And for Feyenoord's point of view, it was almost like a bit of a kick up the backside and saying, do you know what, we weren't great in that first half, we need to step it up now. Arne Slot, clearly the top manager he is, he would have said a few things, tweaked a few things, and coming out in the second half, you have to say, even the 11v11 when it was, Feyenoord would have been a better side.
Scott Minto alongside me, Ian Danta here, as forward comes O and finds Yang, but Celtic can't find their way through. Feyenoord have won it back. Manchester City 3-1 winners against Red Star. That's a full-time score now. Porto won by 3-1 against Shakhtar tonight. And Barcelona 5, Royal Antwerp 0 is also a full-time score in the Champions League tonight. In the 5th minute of a minimum 7 that have been added on at De Kuip. Feyenoord 2, 9-man Celtic 0 on Talksport 2. Sauer, very tall, rangy looking young forward for Feyenoord. Vifa will just lay it off to his captain Hanko, the other centre half. He's had a couple of goes for goal tonight. Feeds it out to Sauer on the left wing. Nicked infield to Zaruki. Zaruki floats the ball out to the right hand side. Johanbach is waiting for it. Getrudia wins it off him, but loses possession, and away comes Celtic. And working extremely hard out on that left-hand side. Does he want to throw for Celtic? Yes, he has. 2-0 Feyenoord.
I'm just thinking, how is he going to get out of this? Because he had about 3 Feyenoord players around him. Because obviously, you know, Celtic now are almost playing like a 4-4-0.
Yeah.
So there's no out ball now. So he's running out with the ball. The Feyenoord players know they're outnumbering him. He's done really well to somehow win a throw-in.
Lazio 1, Atletico Madrid 1. Ivan Provedel equalises for the Italians right in the end of added time in Italy. Lazio 1, Atletico 1. That's in Celtic's group. Lazio go to Celtic Park on match day 2 early next month. And he's the goalkeeper, so he's come up from the back.
Wow.
One of those moments in the Champions League.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just about to say, it's a big goal that in terms of the group, but for your keeper to come up and score it, brilliant.
Unless it was a flipping long goal kick. Pat Jennings did that once.
I was going to say that.
So that was kicking from hands. Can't show my age now.
Me too.
6.5 minutes gone of added time. Feyenoord 2, Celtic 0. And Zaruki strokes the ball along the halfway line for his captain Trauner. Now Vifa works the ball out to Johanbach on the right hand side, who's scored the second for Feyenoord and looked lively since coming on, the Iranian. It's worked back to Trauner once more. Him and Getrudia exchange passes, and Celtic just chasing shadows at the moment. 2 men light and really labouring against this Feyenoord side, enjoying themselves in these closing stages. Johanbach again, right hand corner of the box, tries to thread it in to the box looking for a teammate, only half cleared by Celtic. Alistair Johnson, well, I'm not sure he was trying to lay the ball off too, but he just passed the ball straight back to Hartman. We've played this 7 minutes and the referee blows the whistle, and Feyenoord have beaten Celtic by 2-0. Disappointment, huge disappointment for Brendan Rodgers as he returns to manage in the Champions League. They were really competitive, Celtic, in the first half, but when Calvin Stengs fired in a free kick right on half-time to put Feyenoord a goal up, it made Celtic's task much more difficult, compounded by 2 red cards in the second half within the space of a few minutes. First, Gustav Lagerbielke was given a second yellow card for pulling down Pak Xiao in the box. That penalty was saved by Joe Hart, so it stayed 1-0. But then Odin Holm was sent off, a straight red card for a very robust challenge in midfield. The Norwegian given a straight red card by the referee. And then Ali Jahanbach, once of Brighton, fired home the second for Feyenoord. Celtic's best chances came in the first half, really, particularly through Daisen Maeda, who tested Werner Reuter with a low drive. But ultimately, a hugely disappointing night on Celtic's return to the Champions League group stages. Scott Minto.
Yeah, it's another match day one where they don't get a win, and you know what? They would have taken a draw, and just leading into half-time, I think most people would have thought that actually they could got it, but that goal right on half-time, I just think changed things. It perhaps lifted Feyenoord more than anything else. In the second half, they really stepped it up, and you've got to say, over the whole 90 minutes, as impressed as I was with Celtic in that first 45 minutes, over the whole 90, Feyenoord deserved it. Don't forget they had 2 goals disallowed. It was 11 v 9 in the end. It was just keep ball. There was nothing Celtic could do, but even 11 v 11, they deserved to get the victory in the end, which is disappointing now from Celtic. First half, very good. Second half, not very good at all.
Scott, thanks as always for your company. This evening, Scott Minto, who's been alongside me, Ian Dante here for full commentary, as Feyenoord get their first ever match day 1 win in the group stages of the Champions League, taking the acclaim of their adoring fans at the moment in De Kuip. But Celtic will have to lick their wounds and go again when Lazio come to Celtic Park in a few weeks' time. Coming up next on Talksport 2, it's the Cricket Collective with Neil Manthorpe and Steve Harmison, reflecting on all matters of cricket with the World Cup just around the corner. Over on Talksport, Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy ready to take your calls on tonight's football action. The Sports Bar just getting underway over on Talksport, 03717 223344. But huge disappointment for Celtic, bottom of Group E after the first fixture. They lose tonight in Rotterdam against Feyenoord by 2-0.
Talksport 2.